welcome to the Newton Knowledge Podcast. My name is Mark Singer, partner of Newton One Advisors. Our goal is to provide meaningful content to our valued advisor community and clients who are interested in learning more about sophisticated insurance-related topics, focusing on estate planning and executive benefits. Newton One is a national life insurance planning firm delivering customized solutions structured to help clients and their advisors engaged in solving estate planning, wealth transfer, business succession, and executive benefits challenges. We are a member of the M Financial Group, offering our clients access to the nation's most prestigious insurance carriers and innovative products available only through our network. Joining us today is Barry Church, 9-year NFL alum with the Cowboys and Jaguars. Following his lengthy and star-studded career, he's now an NFL analyst for ESPN, SiriusXM Radio, host of the Players Lounge podcast and co-host on Special Edition, Hit Sticks, and the pre- and post-game show for the Cowboys. His greatest accomplishment by far is his beautiful family. I had the privilege of playing ball with Barry as teammates during our college years, and he's been gracious enough today to share his thoughts and his firsthand perspective on what planning looks like in the league as well as planning afterwards. So to no further ado, Barry, my man, how are we today?
Man, doing amazing, man. And man, Mark Singer out here, man. Look at you, man. Look, you planning all this stuff.
We're all grown up.
Man. We're grown up now. And man, it's super dope to just see the man that you've become, man. I mean, just from when you was, a young man coming into Toledo, man, to the guy you are now and the beautiful family you have, man. It's extremely dope just to see the growth that you've accomplished so far in your life, man. And I'm sure you still got a bunch more growth coming your way, man. But dude, it's awesome. It's awesome hearing from you again, and just awesome for me being on your show, man. I'm super proud of the guy that you've become, dude.
Barry, you're too kind. I brought you on here just to talk nice about me, so I appreciate that, man. Before we jump into this, I have a personal question. So I thought, what better time to ask this during a public setting? So when Odell Beckham made that catch, what coverage were you guys in? And I'm guessing it was man-free.
You know the answer to that question, but you already know we were in man-free. And you already understand. You played the position.
I knew it.
I was just showing the good range.
Yeah.
That's all I was showing. From the middle of the field, I was able to get to the edge.
You were there. You saw it. You had the best view right there, front and center.
It was a catch. It was one hand dude falling back. My corner, Brandon Carr, was holding him, and he still was able to get the job done. But in no way, shape, or form were we in cover two or anything like that where I was supposed to be over top. That was man-to-man coverage, and I was just coming over to try to provide a little bit of help. But he ended up catching that thing, man. That was an amazing catch. So it was, it was a wild experience. But we did win the game.
You did. So my assumption was right. I was like, that had to be man-free or something, because you were coming in late to the picture, like probably center of the field. And I saw a different angle. Someone was filming from the stands, and that catch was just, it was unbelievable.
It was ridiculous.
It really was.
Ridiculous.
Crazy. So you and I, we talked, 2 months ago, maybe we were scheduling this. We talked about what we do a bit, but we do insure some, or have worked with some professional athletes in regards to insuring them. A couple NBA prospects, most of them in the G League, for insuring their potential future earnings, as well as their agents, because they don't make any money if they don't make it, if you will, or draft it. But we haven't dealt with any NFL guys, but this situation with Damar Hamlin, how it happened like a couple weeks after you and I spoke. I haven't watched the play, and I'm really not interested in watching it, but I know you have. So what's your take on the entire situation?
Man, so, I was watching the game. Me and my wife, we were sitting here. I think it was a Monday night maybe. And we were sitting there just watching the game. And as you see the play unfold, it was a routine, just regular tackle. Like, me and you have both made hundreds of these routine tackles. You go in there, you had your face up, and it wasn't like his head was down and his neck was exposed or anything like that. It was a routine, regular tackle wrap up, and you drag the guy down. And that, to me, is what made this whole situation so much scarier, man, because it was a routine play that you see guys get up a million times. And he was able to get up and kind of shrug it off like it was nothing. And then 2.5 seconds later, he just body, just dead weight, just collapsed, and he falls back on his head. And, me and my wife were sitting there and, as well as with the rest of the nation and ESPN, and we're sitting there looking like, man, what the heck was that? What's going on? And then you see, the concerned looks on both the Bengals players as well as the Buffalo players. and you see guys crying, and you see, Josh Allen and Joe Burrow sitting there in disbelief. And I'm like, man, what's really going on? Because they weren't really talking about it on the broadcast. And then once you see these players crying, and then you see ambulance come out, and we're like, oh man, this is something serious, because it didn't look that bad. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's like the Ryan Shazier situation where maybe, something in his back or spinal, or maybe, it's paralyzed or something to where he just collapsed like that. But then you hear over, the announcements that, this guy had to get resuscitated twice.
Jesus.
They're bringing out the, the AFib or whatever jacks your heart back up. And they had to do it twice because the man's heart stopped beating. He couldn't get that circulation or that airflow, that oxygen to the brain. And it was just unbelievably scary because usually, once they have you in the gurney or once they have you loading you up into the ambulance, you'll see the player give a thumbs up or wave his hand or something along that nature. But there was nothing. I mean, the guy was literally lifeless on the field. Like he literally passed away on the field, which was super scary. And luckily, the NFL and, the ambulance and the, healthcare providers were able to act extremely fast, because if that was, out anywhere else, I mean, I'm sorry, but the man probably would have passed away. But they were able to react fast, get his heart back going, help him breathe because he couldn't breathe on his own. They took him to the hospital and he was, able to make a full recovery, which, that's a blessing in its own. But it just goes to show you, man, how dangerous and violent, this sport can be. And it's scary, man, because they still don't have a legit answer, a legit reason to why that happened. They say it happened because, it was just the perfect timing of the hit and the heartbeat or whatever the case may be. But they still don't have a definitive answer, man. And that scares the living crap out of me, man. So that whole situation was, it was devastating. And, thank God he was able to pull through and make a full recovery. But, man, I'm telling you what, that thing was scary, man.
I have so many questions, too. It's like, are they going to try and change the pads? I mean, how long has football been around? And this is the first time this has happened, right? In football, I feel like it may have, has it happened in other sports? Maybe lacrosse or baseball, or where
you've seen some guys, maybe have cardiac arrest, but usually that was from underlying symptoms, like something, underlying. This guy was, 100% healthy from what they say. And I mean, it's just scary, man, just how that happened. And then you talk about, changing pads and all that stuff. And they could. I mean, it's, the science behind, the equipment for football is getting better and better each and every year. But also the guys are getting bigger, faster, stronger. These collisions are getting more and more violent, as the league gets going. So it's just, man, I don't know what you can do. I mean, you can always coach, better tackling habits. But the guy had a great form tackle. It was a form tackle. So it's extremely scary. And I'm looking forward to what the league is going to do this offseason as far as, studying the prevention of something like this happening. Maybe like you said, maybe it's the equipment, maybe it's, the way they teach the game. I have no idea, but they got to figure out something because, another incident like that and, things can go downhill extremely fast.
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, it's a collision sport. They're doing a lot to change it, I would say, from a physicality standpoint. But they're like minor little car accidents in certain circumstances. Are there plans or some form of planning in place when you enter the league for situations that if you're not able to play, if you are injured, or if you're injured indefinitely, do they have any form of insurance coverages through the league, through the NFL to protect their players? Is that all on an individual basis based off of a certain plan, or you have to go out on your own and work with?
And I'm going to tell you this, Mark, because I think it needs to be known. But the NFL, man, when it comes to life insurance or disability or anything to help their players after football, or if they have a crazy injury to where they can't play football anymore, there's no plan. Yeah. Like there's no plan in place. Like when you come into the league all right, you automatically, have this life insurance, or you automatically get disability, or you'll have health care for your remaining years. That's not the case. And to me, I think the NFL probably has the worst union of all sports, because if you look at it, the only way you can get some insurance once you're done playing is that you have to play over 5 years. You have to become a vested veteran. And to be honest with you, we all understand the NFL stands for not for long. And if you look at it, the average career of an NFL player is maybe 2 to 3 years. And then after that's done, what are you looking at? Like, what if you suffer a catastrophic injury to where, you got a permanent limp or you can't walk for the remaining of your days? How are you supposed to set your family up for that? How are you supposed to be successful afterwards when you've only had maybe 2 or 3 years of collecting checks for the National Football League? So it's an extremely tough situation, because when you come in, at least this is how it was when I was playing. They might have changed it, these past couple of years, but when I was coming in, there was no talk of life insurance. There was no talk of, all right, you're going to get these health benefits once you play, because even after you get after you become a vested veteran, once you get to that point, once you retire, you only get 5 years of coverage after that. You get only 5 years of coverage from a place called Cigna to make sure you're taking care of all your health needs.
And that's health benefits. So is it life or disability?
It's not even life or disability. That's just health benefits.
For 5 years, that's it?
That's it.
I mean, how old are these guys when they get out? 27, maybe?
If you did the average NFL career, you're done at, 24, 23, 24. Yeah. And you have no coverage after that because you're not a vested veteran. And even if you were a vested veteran, you're done after, 25, 26. By the time you're 30, 31, your health insurance is done. And you got to start paying out of pocket, which is,
wow.
It's wild to me, man. And it all goes back to, these players and what they value and what the importance is to them, because they had an opportunity, because the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement between the players and, the owners and all that good stuff, happens every 10 years. After the 10 years, they had an opportunity to renegotiate and try to get, more health benefits, try to get life insurance, disability for those guys that don't have the Aaron Rodgers career or the Tom Brady career, where they're making a boat ton of money after football or off the field. They had an opportunity to go ahead and try to get more in that direction. But instead, they chose to, hey, we don't want to get tested for marijuana. Like, to me, that's just,
what are we doing? And those are the players that need it. I mean, the other guys can reinsure. They don't need and there are, and as you know, just to rule a number, there are so many players that are those fringe guys, or even 4, like you said, if they're not vested. I would love to know the percentage of non-vested NFL players.
Oh, I would say it's high. It's got to be extremely high, man.
Because those are the ones because they have their whole life. You have this tunnel vision. You're going to make it and everything's going to be okay, or at least everything will be really good financially for a few years, maybe depending on how you invest it or how your financial plan is set up. When you're 24, 25, you'll be okay for a duration of time. But these guys are coming out and some of them are still kids, and there's nothing in place. Right. There's nothing protection-wise. There's nothing planning-wise. To then, first of all, you have to go and figure out a legitimate career after that. It's not like you sign a contract for 2-3 years and you don't have to work anymore, especially in regards to how you spend the money. I mean, that fascinates me that there's nothing in place. I mean, are there people calling on you guys, like wealth advisors, financial planners, that are continuously calling on I'll call them fringe NFL athletes? Like, what was your experience? Because I know you've done planning, because you've always been extremely smart and forward thinking. So I know you've done planning. What was the process like for you and other players?
Well, look, I'm gonna be honest, because when I came out, undrafted, and you're right, I was able to think a little bit into the future. I wasn't as tunnel vision or tunnel minded as, a lot of cats coming in, because some guys, their first round draft picks, they're thinking, oh, this football thing's, I'm a first rounder, so it's going to happen for me. I'm gonna be this, star on the field and off the field. And if you look at it, man, I would guarantee at least 85%. If you're a first round or second round, it doesn't even matter. Only a few of those guys really get to those second contracts where they're getting paid a buku amount of money on and off the field. The remainder of those guys, once their rookie contract is done, they gotta figure things out. For me, I got lucky because
you didn't get lucky. You worked really hard.
Yeah, I did. I worked really hard.
I just long career too.
Yeah, exactly. You're not lying about that. So I had to work really hard. But my financial guy, who I've had since my senior year at Toledo, by the name of Don Sherwood, he works for Alcon Wealth.
Barry, you were working with him while you were at Toledo, or you were connected with him? At least?
Yeah, I was connected with him my senior year. I sat down, we became, I brought him to my house in Pittsburgh, and, family got to meet him, and, they really, they really liked the guy, and he seemed really trustworthy, and he is. I mean, I've been working for him for, almost 15 years now. So
that's great.
We got that great relationship, kind of like a uncle and nephew type relationship where, he looks after me. So long story short, he's the guy that kind of put it in my mind that, hey, man, if things don't really work out the way you planning it to, you got to have a fallback. You got to have something to make sure that, to basically assure yourself, like that making sure that, you have something after football. So he was the one that kind of talked me into, getting the Pacific Life Insurance and making sure, I got a plan B, because like we all know, football, it's not going to last forever. And, 90% of those guys aren't going to get second and third contracts. So he was really the one that talked me in to making sure I have a backup plan for myself. And then when I started having my family, making sure that they're taken care of if anything, God forbid, were to happen to me. And so that was my experience with it. I got a financial guy that was really trustworthy and really forward thinking and helped me, kind of get over that hump. But you see it happen hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times where people don't have that good financial guy. Some people just, the financial guy will come to you, talk to you for 2 seconds. And then, hey, when the moment you don't bring in, hundreds and thousands of dollars to him and his firm, they stop talking to you.
Yeah.
So, a lot of those guys, they don't have that same experiences that I had. And it's really tough for them because not only is their career, was their career a lot shorter than mine and money, as far as money is concerned, but after that, you got to think, where am I going to get this health insurance for my family? Where am I going to get these benefits? Something has to happen. So, that's the reason I say I got lucky, because I had a lot of great people in my corner to help me get over that hump and to help me realize that life is bigger than just, playing on a football field. You got to make sure you go out there and handle yourself and your family as well. And I say, it changed a lot of mindsets, from when I played, because when I played, it was all football, football, football. That's it. Now you see, a lot of these cats, a lot of these young football players, they're like building brands.
Entrepreneurs, right?
Businesses,
yeah.
Entrepreneurs.
Exactly, yeah.
And you see it. You see it all the time now. These NFL teams are setting these young guys up with, internships here, internships there. So I believe it's starting to turn for the better. But when I first got in, there was none of that. There was none of that building of a brand, or you got to, it's more than just a game. You got to have these businesses outside of football. There was none of that. It was all tunnel vision and what can you do for your NFL team. But now it's starting to change a little bit. And they're starting to realize that, hey, yourself is, you got to look at yourself as a brand, look at yourself as a business, and try to maximize as much as you can from yourself as well as others around you.
And that was almost like sneered upon if you were doing other things outside of just trying to be a better football player.
You know it.
I mean, even in college, but now it's almost like you have to strike while the iron's hot, right? You're a player, and you can set up a side business doing whatever, whatever some of these people are doing now. But it's interesting to hear how it's changed because you played 9 years, right? Was it?
Yeah, I was 2010 and then to 2019. So yeah, it was. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, 2018. So yeah, it was 9 years. 9 years.
I wonder if it was almost better or in your favor to be kind of that, under the radar. You were good enough. I mean, you were good enough to play in the league, but to not be a high, a second or third rounder, but get a chance to, because then you get those advisors who are more relationship driven versus we need to plan for the Aaron Rodgers or those guys. And if those assets don't follow through, it may not be worth the juice isn't worth their squeeze. So they're on to the next. So almost, I wonder if that was beneficial in your favor, being that guy who was on the fringe, and then obviously having the lengthy career you had.
100% right. I mean, you look at it, you got a lot of those guys that big time first rounders or, they're big time, prospects coming out, and they sign with these agents / financial guys who don't really have their best interests at heart. I got lucky because my financial guy was more family oriented, and it was only me and maybe, 6 other guys. So we got his full undivided attention. You see a lot of these guys when they come in, they go with their financial guy. He may have, 100 or 150 different clients. So you may only talk to him, once a month. And to me, that's ridiculous. Like, I call my guy at least, once, maybe even twice a week. I got to know what's going on financially. I got to know everything. Like, and that's just how I am. Like, I don't want to do too many things. I'm not a great multitasker, but you put maybe one or two, things in front of me. All right, I can make sure this is right and that's right. And then we go from there. But yeah, a lot of these guys, man, they sign with these big time, firms, and they get treated. If you're not the top dog at that firm, you get kind of thrown to the wayside. And I've seen it happen, hundreds and hundreds of times. So like you said, I got 100% lucky with that, with the great guy to be able to, basically guide my career until I got to the point where, okay, now I can understand this a little bit better. So we're more like partners now instead of just a mentorship. So
that's the way it should be, man. Regardless of the business you're in. I mean, I've been in the industry, the insurance industry now for 10 plus years. And I've seen both sides of it. I've seen those transactional types of engagements and discussions. And it's just, it may work for a bit, but in terms of cultivating true meaningful relationships, and sustaining it and building a business and a practice that's fruitful for you and your clients, it's got to be relationship driven, and you truly got to care, and it's got to be comprehensive planning. So I want to talk about the leader of your family, Marcia, because she's the captain, and she just opened her own practice, right? Speech pathology.
Yeah, so
that's fantastic.
Going on a year now. Yep, she has started her own private practice. She's a speech language pathologist, got her master's and all that. And before I even met her down here, she was working for a business called Therapy 2000, which basically she was in charge of all the Dallas Independent School District. She would be the ones that go in there and evaluate these kids and make sure, hey, she can, tell if they had autism or they needed they were just slow developing, or, maybe they, something else was going on in there. So she was able to go in there and do all that. And she did that for a number of years. And then we got to the point where, my football career, it started to take off, and, we wanted to start to have a family. So we sat down, we talked a little bit, and I wanted her to know that, hey, right now we have the opportunity, just because, I'm playing good, things are going well, to where when we have these kids, I would prefer if you were to, stay at the house and raise them, because, nothing wrong with daycares or anything like that. I was raised in a daycare, but, I wanted my kids to be around my wife. So I wanted that to happen from when they're little to where, then they go to school. But we were able to do that. And so, she put her career on hold for me, thank God. And, their kids grew up with her and grew up with myself in the house. And then, now they're able to go to school, and she was able to start her private practice. And thankfully, things went well for my career, and I was able to be that, financial backer for her business, to start her business, to kick it off. And, the first couple months, it was a little rocky, just because, she's the first time business owner. She worked for Therapy 2000 all those years, but it wasn't her company. So now that it's become her company, those first couple months, they were a little rocky. It was always kind of, oh, I need more money for this, or, oh, I need more money for that. But then once she got her client, base up, and she started getting these schools and these preschools to pay her to come in and do all the work by herself, I mean, it took off, man. It took off unbelievably. And now she's to the point where she has so many clients that she has to get employees. So she has about 3 or 4 employees now, and the company is really taking off. Because if you look at it, I mean, there's always going to be a need for speech, a speech pathologist out there. There's always going to be a need for that. So her company is taking off great, and I'm super proud of the mom and the businesswoman that she's become.
Oh, for sure. And it sounds like you guys are a good team, to no surprise. Which is
she holds me down, man.
Which is huge. So we're coming up on 30 minutes, and I wanted to let you plug anything. What's new for Barry Church, aside from all this co-hosting with ESPN and the pre and post game show for the Cowboys? What else is in store for you and your family?
I love what I'm doing now as an analyst. Just to stay around football, because I mean, you might as well work in the field that, you've had so many reps at. So, I love what I'm doing as far as being an analyst for ESPN, XM Radio, being a co-host for all those Dallas shows. But now I'm starting to, dibble a little bit into real estate. So
nice.
got a couple properties down here in Dallas. You know, I'm renting out, and then I got some land out here as well that I'm buying and holding, just to see, you know, if I can get my feet wet in that game, and just to see what's going on that aspect of the business. So I'm looking forward to it, man. Looking real forward to it. So far, it's been going great. You know, my tenants are great. You know, it brings me a nice little return each and every month. So to me, it all comes down to multiple streams of income, because you never want to be caught if something, crazy were to happen at one job or you're no longer working there. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, man. So to me, it's all about multiple streams of income, and I'm starting to fulfill that now.
Diversification, man. Forward thinking, Barry Church, always on to the next. I love it, dude. I really do. This has really been great. I appreciate you coming on here. It's always good to catch up. Please tell the family I said hey, and we'll catch up soon.
Heck yeah, man. We got to have you and the fam down here in Dallas, man. We got to have y'all check us out, man.
Once the playoffs are over and everything. Well, you guys beat up on Brady. So once the Eagles, man, Cowboys.
Here we go.
We'll see what happens.
All right.
All right. I appreciate it, Barry. We'll catch up soon. Thanks again.
Oh, man. Anytime you need me, give me a call, brother.
No doubt. The material and opinions voiced are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what is appropriate for you, please contact a member of our team.